She gave birth once, then again, and again, not because she chose to, but because the choice was never hers. Some queens recorded more than 15 births. One endured nearly 20. This is not a story about motherhood. It is a story about what happened when royal duty refused to let a woman stop. Royal marriages were not love stories. They were contracts between dynasties. A queen's value was not measured in wisdom or authority, but in heirs. When children died, the pressure did not ease. It returned, heavier, and the cycle began again. These were the queens whose bodies became instruments of empire. For queens, force was rarely spoken aloud. It did not arrive as commands or punishments. It lived inside expectation. Royal succession depended on survival, not sentiment. Dynasties rose or collapsed on bloodlines alone. A queen could not simply decide she was finished. Her marriage existed for one purpose: continuity. Infant mortality was devastatingly high. Many children never reached adulthood. When a child died, the response was not only grief, it was replacement. Courts did not ask whether a queen had recovered. They asked when the next pregnancy would begin. No law needed to be written. No threat needed to be voiced. Everyone already understood the role. And so the pregnancies continued. Maria Carolina of Austria. Maria Carolina represents the most extreme, reliably documented case in European royal history. Over just 2 decades, she gave birth 18 times. Pregnancy was not an event, it was a condition that rarely ended. Between births, recovery was brief and incomplete. Before her strength returned, the expectation of the next child already loomed. Many of her children died young. Each loss intensified the pressure to conceive again. Grief did not slow the cycle, it accelerated it. As long as her body functioned, it was expected to produce. This is as close as history comes to truly non-stop childbirth for a reigning queen. Maria Theresa. Maria Theresa ruled one of Europe's largest empires. She also spent much of her adult life pregnant. Over 19 years, she gave birth 16 times, often with little pause between pregnancies. Her children were not only heirs, they were diplomatic instruments. Each birth carried political weight. Each marriage extended her influence across Europe. Pregnancy and governance were not treated as competing roles. They were expected to coexist. Stopping was never considered a strategic option. Her body was essential infrastructure for the state. Eleanor of Castile. Eleanor's story shows how endurance crossed into danger. She gave birth at least 16 times, often while traveling long distances across medieval Europe. Some pregnancies occurred during military campaigns, others while crossing harsh terrain with minimal care. Rest was rarely prioritized, survival was uncertain, yet the expectation never changed. Her safety mattered less than succession. Her body followed power wherever it moved. Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz. Queen Charlotte is remembered for stability and respectability. What history often softens is the physical reality beneath that image. Over 21 years, she gave birth 15 times. Nearly her entire adult life unfolded in a cycle of pregnancy, recovery, and repetition. As political instability grew around her, her body was expected to remain constant. This was not considered extraordinary, it was simply her responsibility. Anna of Bohemia and Hungary. By the time we reach Anna, frequency itself becomes normalized. She gave birth 15 times over roughly 2 decades. Court records do not describe this as excessive, they describe it as productive. Health was secondary to output. Recovery mattered only if it enabled the next birth. There was no defined endpoint, only continuation. Isabella of Angoulême. Isabella's life shows how reproductive duty followed queens across marriages. She gave birth repeatedly during her first marriage. When that marriage ended, the expectation did not. She remarried and the cycle resumed. Across 2 political unions, Isabella produced 14 children, different courts, same demands. Her body was never released from obligation. Philippa of Hainault. Philippa represents the lower boundary of what historians still consider near continuous childbirth. Over roughly 20 years, she gave birth 12 to 13 times, even during periods of war and instability. Chroniclers praised her resilience. They admired her composure. What they did not question was the cost. Her endurance was framed as virtue, not sacrifice. These women were not reckless. They were not chasing legacy. They were fulfilling a role that did not allow refusal. Royal power did not protect them. It consumed them. Their crowns gave them authority, but no control over their own bodies. They were queens in name and instruments in practice. History remembers their children. It rarely remembers what it cost to produce them.